Why we need to protect polar bears. Polar bears are being increasingly threatened by the effects of climate change, but the disappearance could have far-reaching consequences. They are uniquely adapted to the extreme conditions of the Arctic Circle, where temperatures can reach -40 degrees Celsius. One reason for this is that they have up to 11 centimeters of fat underneath the skin. Humans with comparative levels of adipose tissue would be considered obese and would be likely to suffer from diabetes and heart disease. Yet, polar bear experiences no such consequences. A 2014 study by Shipinglo and colleagues shed light on this mystery. They compared the genetic structure of polar bears with that of their closest relatives from a warmer climate, the brown bears. This allowed them to determine the genes that have allowed polar bears to survive in one of the toughest environments on Earth. Liu and his colleagues found the polar bears had a gene known as APOB, which reduces the level of low-density lipoproteins, LDLs, a form of bad cholesterol. In humans, mutations of this gene are associated with increased risk of heart disease. Polar bears may therefore be an important study model to understand heart disease in humans. The genome of the polar bear may also provide the solution for another condition, one that particularly affects our older generation, osteoporosis. This is a disease where bones show reduced density, usually caused by insufficient exercise, reduced calcium intake, or food starvation. Bone tissue is constantly being remodeled, meaning that bone is added or removed, depending on nutrient availability and the stress that the bone is under. Female polar bears, however, undergo extreme conditions during every pregnancy. Once autumn comes around, these females will dig maturity dens in the snow and will remain there throughout the winter, both before and after the birth of their cubs. This process results in about 6 months of fasting, where the female bears have to keep themselves and the cubs alive, depleting their own calcium and calorie reserves. Despite this, their bones remain strong and dense. Physiologists Alanda Lennox and Ellen Gottschalk found an explanation for this paradox in 2008. They discovered that pregnant bears were able to increase their density of their bones before they started to build their dens. In addition, 6 months later, when they finally emerged from the den with their cubs, there was no evidence of significant loss of their bone density. Hibernating brown bears do not have this capacity and must therefore resort to major bone reformation in the following spring. If the mechanism of bone remodeling in polar bears can be understood, many bedridden humans and even astronauts could potentially benefit. The medical benefits of the polar bear for humanity certainly have their importance in our conservation efforts. But these should not be the only factors taken into consideration. We tend to want to protect animals we think are intelligent and possess emotions, such as elephants and primates. Bears, on the other hand, seem to be perceived as stupid, in many cases violent. And yet, anecdotal evidence from the field challenges those assumptions, suggesting, for example, that polar bears have good problem-solving abilities. a male bear called Gogo in Tennoji Zoo, Osaka, has even been observed making use of a tool to manipulate his environment. The bear used a tree branch on multiple occasions to dislodge a piece of meat hung out of his reach. Problem-solving ability has also been witnessed in wild polar bears, although not as obviously as with Gogo. A calculated move by a male bear involved running and jumping onto barrels in an attempt to get to a photographer standing on a platform 4 meters high. In other studies, such as one by Allison Ames in 2008, polar bears showed deliberately and focused manipulation. For example, Ames observed bears putting objects in piles and then knocking them over in what appeared to be a game. The study demonstrates that bears are capable of agile and thought-out behaviors. These examples suggest bears have greater creativity and problem-solving abilities than previously thought. As for emotions, while the evidence is once again anecdotal, many bears have been seen to hit out at ice and snow, seemingly out of frustration, when they have just missed out on a kill. Moreover, polar bears can form unusual relationships with other species, including playing with the dogs used to pull sleds in the Arctic. Remarkably, one hand-raised polar bear called Agi has formed a close relationship with her owner Mark Dolmers, to the point where they even swim together. This is even more astonishing since polar bears are known to actively hunt humans in the wild. If climate change were to lead to their extinction, this would mean not only the loss of potential breakthroughs in human medicine, but more importantly, the disappearance of an intelligent, majestic animal.